Yes, yes. How we doing, good people? Hoping everyone is fine and irie. We're going to take a second and talk about what we call digital experience platforms. You know what I mean? Just try to get an idea of how we got here, right? So, and I think that's always helpful. And then as usual, hopefully we can circle back and dig deeper into some of these topics. Maybe go through a PowerPoint presentation or share my screen and show you some things related to these technologies. So yeah, so how do we get here? So with let's take you back to late 80s, early 90s. Some of these content management systems were coming onto the scene. You probably heard about things like WordPress and some of these other guys. WordPress obviously has become a giant now. So at that time, people were kind of just getting onto the internet. I mean, mobile devices weren't that big of a deal, at that time. So, this is, pre iPhone, pre a whole lot of things. You know what I mean? So, the digital channels was probably down to like one or two website and maybe something else, I don't know. So, the experience and I guess the customer expectation of their experience was very different than what it is now. So, over the years that changed, and you don't have to be a tech expert to know that changed. So then we got this thing called the web experience management, and we begin to talk about as an expansion of the content management system. Let's talk about the web experience management system. So what is this exactly? Like I said, it is an expansion of the content management system, but on some level, it's just a realization that okay, people got their websites, but later on, other digital channels began to emerge. Obviously, the mobile device began to become more of a thing, and you have these digital marketing channels, digital commerce channels. So things just started to begin to expand a little bit. The idea that there's more ways for a customer to experience what you're about. And this is, whether you got an online store, whether you got a nonprofit, no matter what you got going on, government agency, there's different ways to experience your organization and the service or product that your organization, the interaction that your organization provides. All right, so emerging from there, now we get to the idea of the digital experience platform, right? So I like to identify some of the players, and they don't pay me for name dropping. So we get Adobe's a big one. Adobe Experience Manager. You got folks like even the consultants at IBM. And when the IBM consultants get on stuff, it's a pretty big deal because their IBM is here. Their enterprise level. They've been around for a very long time. So if they're looking at something, it's a big deal. So actually they have consultants that work on that work with the Adobe Experience Manager and add different things to include things like artificial intelligence, machine learning, etc. All that plays a role into the digital experience platform. So I'll try to think of some others. You have Sitecore. Sitecore is the one that comes up, and those are probably the big ones. Those are probably the big ones because when you get into conversations about IBM, you know, you get into the idea of, yes, you do have a offering like Adobe that is kind of they're kind of a one-stop shop when it comes to the digital experience platform. But you also have situations where it's more composable. So that's where you get, folks like IBM consultants and, and companies like mine, which is, Universal Equations, that come in and, give you some additional options along with the Adobe. If you want to do the Adobe Experience Manager, that's one thing. If you want additional options, you have some other stuff that you could do, right? So yeah, I mean, Sitecore is one that I see a lot of people have had a positive experience with. One I'd like to also mention, depending, because see, you need something that matches the culture of your organization. One thing I'd also like to mention is something called Umbraco. Umbraco has been around. It's been around a very long time. It's open source. It's open source. It's one of the only open source solutions that I can think of that can be a part of your composable, digital experience platform setup. It is .NET. I mean, you'll actually, which is interesting because that's kind of the split, that you see. You know what I mean? You see, some platform is based on something like MySQL. You have others based on, .NET. Those are the ones that actually require a database. Umbraco, I think, pretty sure Sitecore would go into that category as well. It's definitely .NET. I'm pretty sure you could hook up a SQL Server database to that. So yeah, this, generally going back and forth between either a MySQL database backed platform, experience platform, or content management system that can serve as a piece, a component of your experience platform. And you have, like I said, the Sitecore Umbraco, which would be more, SQL Server based, which could be a content management system that can serve as a component. And Sitefinity does have an experience. I mean, Sitecore. I guess Sitefinity is a good one. Progress Sitefinity. That's a good one as well. I probably should throw that into the mix. They have a nice one as well. But yeah, Sitecore is also. They also have experience platform. So I like to give you all a wide spectrum of kind of what's out there, and you gotta figure out what works for your organization, the culture, the personnel that you have. And obviously, because of the business side and the technology side, you figure out what works on both, and there's obviously going to be some kind of compromise in between the business side and technology side. So Umbraco, it has the CMS, and you have something called Hardcore, which would probably be what you would use in your digital experience platform. Hardcore is what they call a headless CMS. It basically means you don't have like a drag and drop editor that you're using to create web pages. Like I said, they do have that. Umbraco CMS does have that. But if you're just going to use APIs, which when we're talking about experience platforms, that's often what happens, because you have so many deep integrations that you're trying to enable with this content, because there's so many different channels. Because when there's only like one or two channels, you can go into a drag and drop editor and make your pages. But now when you're needing these deep integrations, and we're talking about digital channels, including we talked about digital marketing, digital commerce. But with experience platform, we're talking about call centers, we're talking about POS systems, we're talking about digital signage, not just web, not just mobile. We're talking about several digital channels now. So those API integrations are going to be a necessity. It's not even a luxury anymore. It's a necessity. I mean, how else are you going to be able to deliver content to all these different channels in a? How else are you going to be able to scale? How else are you going to be able to scale? So the thing about Umbraco is just that Umbraco can scale with your company. Umbraco doesn't pay me, but I'm just I'm just telling you some of the things that you look for when you're trying to figure out a solution. If you're trying to have that experience, that experience platform, one that can grow with your organization. And no matter how big or small your organization is, you'll be able to expand with that. And like I said, on Bracos.net, you can install .net on a Linux system, just like you install anything else. And Umbraco, there are people that host it. Umbraco is a company that can give you a hosted offering of Umbraco. Obviously, you can host it yourself. I'm sure they'll provide you with support, for a fee. They'll give you support to host your own. And there's companies that outside of Umbraco that do host it. They got a pretty good partner ecosystem. So I mean, just kind of give you some of the options that you have. And like I said, if you're one of these folks who like to build your technology stack, you don't want the vendor lock-in. Something like Umbraco, like I said, you don't have to do it, but it's just one that comes to mind, and it's been around for a while. Something like an Umbraco Hardcore, HEARTCORE, Hardcore, and that's their headless CMS, would be a good option if you want to have that control over your technology stack. You're comfortable with .NET, and you're trying to build that composable, a digital experience platform where you're taking components and putting it together. Like I said, you got ServiceNow, Salesforce. Like I said, you got call centers. You've got so many different channels now. So you want to be able to create those deep API integrations. Like I said, something like an Umbraco Hardcore would probably be a good standard. So I would compare everything to that. So that kind of gives you the spectrum. Everything from, like I said, you got a Umbraco on one end of the spectrum, and you got an Adobe Experience Manager on the other. And then in between, you got stuff like the Sitecore Experience Platform. It's a good one. Like I said, there are consultants like the ones IBM may have that work with something like an Adobe Experience Manager to create all sorts of ways to make your organization more effective when it comes to getting content out to its users, and the analytics piece of it as well, to see how users are actually interacting with your content. And that includes phone calls and clicks and chats and things like that. Being able to analyze that data and then operationalize the insights that you get from that data. You know what I mean? So, I think we got a good idea of this digital experience platform era, that we're in, and like I said, hopefully we can circle back around and get in deeper. Do PowerPoint or share my screen and show you all some things. But I think we're good. So yeah, thank you for joining me for this. As always, feel free to click the like button or subscribe. Subscribe to our channel. Keep the content flowing, and we'll talk. Thank you, and have an amazing day. Bye bye.